What's going on? Just Hoop Talk Network. You're with Justin Henry, Will Thompson, and today we're talking the Los Angeles Clippers, who were just eliminated, but more importantly, we saw them lose without Kawhi Leonard.
Man.
And so today, we're going to be talking a little bit about Kawhi Leonard's future with this organization or without this organization. But before we do, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to be talking all off-season content as well as this finals content coming up here very soon. Make sure you like, subscribe, share the channel, comment with us down below. We got a lot coming for you. But as far as Kawhi Leonard goes, Will, it seems like every time this dude's contract's up, we're talking what's going on with Kawhi Leonard. Had a really good situation with the Spurs. It unraveled when it came to the training staff and if he was going to be playing and his reporting on his injuries. Went to Toronto, seemed like it was a good setup, and then we found that the Clippers made a really aggressive move to get him by getting Paul George.
Yeah.
Now he's in there with Paul George, year number 2. They've had some really highs and some low lows. But what's your thoughts so far on Kawhi Leonard and his journey leading up to this point we're at now?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about one of the probably the most unpredictable guys in the league, man. Like, he's so quiet. He's so close to the vest. His team not leaking anything. He's really unpredictable in the sense of it's hard to tell what's next for him. It's hard to tell if he's happy, you know?
Yeah.
To tell if he's comfortable. It was interesting him being up in the booth with his kids rather than down on the court with his team, and you don't know what to read into that. He's a different guy. Is that a good sign or a bad sign? Like, we don't really know, man. It seems like a good spot. I feel like this year they gave him the keys to the car a little bit more. I know he wanted to be the focal point of the offense, and it seemed like he was really comfortable being the guy. He was incredible early on in the playoffs before he got hot, man. He was absolutely taking over games. A lot of slow starts to games and to series this year, but they finished really strong. It was just definitely disappointing to see him get injured. The team, they look good, but they need some more pieces. But there's not a lot of flexibility there, man. There just really isn't. They got potentially 2 guys on huge max level contracts. It doesn't leave a lot for anyone else, and there's not a ton of all-star talent around him. Top 3rd, 4th players on this team, and the West is stacked. The West is coming back strong again. You got to wonder what Kawhi is thinking. You know, he's a guy who's plotting and thinking and looking around, and we'll see, man. We will see for sure.
Yeah, and for him, you know, like you said, he plays everything close to the vest. I'm not sure what he's going to do, but you know, looking at this team and how they performed in the playoffs, he knew it was on him. He knew that Paul George was playing a B role. And we saw that Paul George excels when he's able to be a little bit more consistent on the court, have his ball in the hands, or have the ball in his hands a little bit more frequently. He's just able to do a little bit more on the court. And Kawhi, obviously, he's looking at that roster looking, okay, there's not a lot of room for error. They gave up a lot of picks to get Paul George. They have a lot of veterans right now that are on really small contracts that are really outperforming. And we saw Reggie Jackson explode during this playoff run and really play up himself for a big contract. So you know they're not going to keep him.
Nope.
We also saw the Clippers start to have other players elevate their game. Terrence Mann has played an extended role and is going to require some more playing time now. And then also that rift with the coaching staff, with the training staff more specifically. Who knows where this thing is going to go, man? And I think we've just seen Kawhi kind of not really expose his hand, and so it sucks for the organization because you put all your eggs in one basket with this guy, and he's just completely on a different path. We've heard some names. You know, obviously the Lakers made a big, they tried really hard to go get Kawhi when he was a free agent last time. We talked about the Miami Heat and situations. What are you thinking Kawhi is over here thinking? Because he's had an opportunity to win a championship already with the Raptors. Yeah. This Clipper team may or may not be the right fit. And then there's also teams like the Lakers and the Heat who didn't get as far as the Clippers this year. What do you think is going on in his head right now?
I mean, from everything that we've heard from him in past years, we know he wanted to be in LA, right? Like, he's from LA. He wanted to be in LA, and he seems like a guy who's not shy about teaming up with other superstars. So you start to do the math, and it looks like he's either going to stay with the Clippers, or the Lakers could be a potential spot for him, but he'd have to obviously figure out a way to take less money or something. They'd have to figure out a way to work that out.
Right.
But I don't know, man. I'm looking at some of the free agents. I'm looking at a guy like Damian Lillard. I'm looking at a guy like Kawhi, guys who are in their prime. And we saw what happened with the Nets this year. Super teams can be built relatively easily. I don't know, man. I think there's going to be some phone calls, some text messages sent, and there's going to be some moves made. I really do. I don't know that. I think Kawhi sitting up in the booth was not a good sign, man. Like you said, something going on with the coaching staff and the training staff. He didn't want to be down around the situation for whatever reason. It's not a good look. Any way you frame it, it's not a great look, So I think there's going to be some moves made. I don't think Kawhi is shy or afraid to team up with another superstar, and we could see some big splashes again this year, man.
I think a big indication of what Kawhi is thinking will be what he says after they do their recap of the season. They go and they talk to him individually, because if he's like, hey, I'm committed to this team heading into free agency, that says a lot. If he's like, hey, I need to weigh my options, long extended free agency period, so I'm going to start to question it, man, because we've seen Kawhi. He's unfortunately, loyalty is not his DNA. He's only loyal to Kawhi Leonard. And in that case, we've seen him leave Toronto early. We saw him leave the Spurs without really telling them what was going on. And I know he's not telling the Clippers what's going on. The only thing I'm thinking is he is back home. So if he really is attached to his hometown and the people there in his hometown, it makes sense for Kawhi Leonard to stick around, try to see it through. And on the flip side, I know we're talking a little bit more about Kawhi's side, but the Clippers, man, you're so invested in not just Kawhi Leonard, but this Kawhi Leonard, Paul George pairing, and you've seen the potential with it. Obviously, there's enough there. In a down season, they can win the championship. They have the right talent, but it just doesn't seem like in a full season this team can do it. What are you thinking as a Clippers? If you're Steve Ballmer and you're like, hey, I got to pay these guys, if you're thinking Toronto, like, man, I got Terrence Mann over here ready to come off and ignite things. What are you thinking on the Clippers side as far as do we keep Kawhi? Do we want to invest 5 more years in a guy who may not be wanting to, play consistently every single game of the season or be in contact with our training staff?
Right. I think him being out and the team playing relatively well, I don't think that bodes well for Kawhi and his free agency situation that he has coming up. I think you're right, man. If he doesn't sign with them right away, that could kind of sour things a little bit, because now the Clippers have to make a decision. Are they going to wait to see what Kawhi is doing, or are they going to build their team, And if they wait for him and wait to see what he's doing and let him make his decision, and they miss on a guy like re-signing Reggie Jackson, or they miss on a guy like bringing in a Damian Lillard or something like that to partner up with Paul George, because they have a pretty good core. It's not a championship core without Kawhi, but you add a few pieces to Paul George, Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann, a healthy Serge Ibaka, Zubac. You add another all-star to that team, and that's a really good team in the West. So I don't think Kawhi has as much power this time around as he's had before in the past,
Yeah, it's true. And Kawhi, as a superstar, he's the quiet superstar. He's not really the dominant figure that most superstars are and require. So it's like he kind of just moves on his own. And I'm looking at fit. I really like the fit with the Miami Heat. I think he plays that Jay Crowder, Iguodala role, but at a higher level. And I don't think that this team's keeping Tyler Hero. I think after what happened last year, I think Tyler Hero's become a little bit more expendable. I'm not sure Goran Dragic is there next year. There's just some pieces. Duncan Robinson is up for a contract, so there goes a $20 million a year guy, 15-point scorer for them. And you look at Jimmy Butler, he needs help. Bam is there, but they still need help. So when you're talking about Kawhi coming there, that might be the perfect piece to give them a big three in the East that is going to need a big three. If you want to win a championship right now with the way the Nets are stacked up, with the way the Bucks are stacked up. This is the time to go get a Kawhi Leonard. They missed out on Giannis. They're not going to be able. Obviously, Giannis re-signed with Milwaukee, but going and making an aggressive move for Kawhi Leonard, and they're top-notch organization. I think Kawhi would have nothing but respect for joining them.
Right.
What are you thinking as far as organization fit for either the Heat or maybe a different team like the Lakers?
Yeah, I like that. I like the Heat, just because he kind of fits their mold as well, man. The Lakers, honestly, I'm thinking of another team, and this is, again, we don't know anything about Kawhi. We don't know if he's married to be in LA or if he's kind of over that now. But I look at the New York Knicks, man, like,
oh, get out of here. Get out of here. No way.
A piece away from being really good. I get a guy like Kawhi with a coach like Tibbs, a defensive, tough-minded guy, a guy who he'll throw Kawhi out on the court all day long, bro. He'll
throw Kawhi under the bus for not playing every game 40 minutes.
That's true. But I don't know. I look at a team like, I don't know, that came to my head, like the Knicks, he'd be a really interesting fit back in the East. They'd have some huge battles between, Brooklyn and New York, man. There'd be some interesting stuff going on. I'd love to see him in New York with the Knicks, man. Shout out to the Knicks fans out there. I know you got my
fans gonna go crazy, like, we getting Kawhi. But to be honest, you bring up a good point though, because Kawhi did this last time, and I don't know if he would be willing to do this again. He waited it out until a team made a really aggressive move to put the right piece around him. Yeah. Now, a piece I've always thought would be really good playing with Kawhi Leonard is a Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
So if you're like the New York Knicks and you're like, okay, maybe we have enough room, enough pieces to move some things around, do you go make a really aggressive move to go get a Damian Lillard and pair him with Kawhi Leonard and somehow keep Julius Randle in the fold? Now you're talking. Now Kawhi, okay, there's a reason for me to go to New York. But if I'm Kawhi, I'm looking, okay, who's the person that's getting Damian Lillard?
Yeah.
Because to me, that's the perfect fit for Kawhi Leonard, is a Damian Lillard type player, somebody who can go get their own, a little less streaky than Paul George, but also can hold his own and kind of really feed off of Kawhi and what he does. Only thing I think with Dame is he requires so much from the pick and roll action.
Yeah.
That sometimes that might take a little bit away from Kawhi, but Kawhi can get an efficient 20 without the ball in his hands and without being the main source on offense.
That's interesting, because I was also thinking about the Mavericks, and I'd love to see Kawhi with Luka. But would Kawhi be willing to play off the ball a little bit,
Yeah.
Would he be willing to be a defensive stopper? He's a guy who can shoot now. Like, he legitimately can shoot. Is he willing to catch and shoot and be a slasher and average 23 a game instead of, 29 or 30?
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if Kawhi wants to be the man or if he wants to go somewhere and do something, something big.
Well, that's where I was going to go with this last point, is because after Kawhi Leonard won the championship in Toronto, popular thing to do was say, oh, is he a top 5 small forward of all time? Is he a top 3 player in the league right now? Is he a top 20 player of all time? And then we quickly are finding out that Kawhi Leonard is a great player, but maybe not among the NBA elite in history type players. With 3 championships, obviously, it was easy to start to say, okay, he's in that conversation. But what do you think Kawhi Leonard's goal is with this? Do you think he's more interested in staying at home, playing with the Lakers, taking the easy road out, staying with the Clippers, taking the hard road, but staying in LA, or like all in on a championship and winning and going to an organization like the Heat? Because that makes a difference, like, do you want to be the man and get a ship, or are you just like, hey, I care about winning. I want to be able to rest when I want to rest. I care about my health more than anything. Like, what do you think? What do you think is most important to this guy?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question, because him leaving Toronto really didn't make much sense, bro. Like,
no, not at all.
That was such a good spot, especially in the East before Brooklyn had formed the super team. Like, they had a legit opportunity to repeat again the next season. So him leaving was just like, you're teaming up with Paul George, but there was no guarantee that was going to work. They had something there that worked, that made sense. So him leaving, that told me he's got other things going on in his head, like he's looking to accomplish different things. He wanted to be home. He wanted to kind of he had the entire country to himself. So I don't know what, like, have his own team. I don't know, man. So yeah, like literally, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this dude, bro. Like I have no idea. I would assume he's looking to win more championships.
Yeah,
But
that's why you play.
We're gonna find out, man. We're definitely gonna find out this time around if he's just comfortable being in LA, getting knocked out of the playoffs in second, third round every year, and calling it a career at some point.
We will see. We'll see if his uncle has anything to say about the whole situation and navigating through, man. Let us know your guys' thoughts in the comments. Do you think Kawhi Leonard is staying in LA with the Clippers or with the Lakers? Or you think he's headed out and going to the Heat? Let us know your guys' thoughts on Kawhi Leonard in the comments. We'll be sure to comment back. This is another episode of Just Hoop Talk. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share the channel. We are out.
Peace.